All right, let's jump back in here. Sorry for that. So we're watching the second game of Navi versus Team Liquid in the Raid Call Dota 2 League, sponsored by Evil. Sorry, I just didn't say sponsored by Evil Genius. Run by the Evil Genius organization and primarily commented on by AC and Draskell. And I'm Vikrmont. We're going to take a look at this game. In the first game, Navi completely dominated Team Liquid. I don't think there's really two ways to put it. Team Liquid got outdrafted, outplayed, outlaned. Basically, just that had an extremely hard time right from the get-go. It was 19-4 at 19 minutes into the game when they surrendered and went to game 2. So we'll see what they actually do to adjust that. We actually have come into the draft phase already. Team Liquid bans out the Nyx Assassin and the Undying. Navi bans out Bat Rider and Darkseer. Pretty similar bans to the last game. The only thing we don't see is that Navi has once again swapped the Lone Druid ban for the Darkseer ban. We're going to see if Navi ends up picking up that Lone Druid as one of their first two heroes. Liquid decides to go with the Magnus once again, so it'll be interesting to see whether they try to put him on the side lane solo and hope that he does a little better than he did in the off lane in the last game, depending on what the opposing lane is, or if they actually decide to go up with the Magnus in the middle. Navi, meanwhile, takes those two strong mid-game carries. They pick up the Lifestealer, they pick up the Lone Druid. Lifestealer denied to Liquid now. If they were relying on picking up Lifestealer, they now definitely can't. And they have this additional Lone Druid. This gives them two powerful mid-game carries. It'll be interesting to see who they put on which. They when they pick up these two heroes, usually you see Puppey playing this Lifestealer. This is one of the few carry heroes that you commonly see Puppey playing. He can be run in the jungle, but he also can be run as a dual mid. There's all sorts of things they can do with him. And they can put Ghost on this Lone Druid, put him as a safe lane solo or in a variety of other lane configurations. One of the strengths of Navi is really that they are able to be so versatile in terms of who goes on which hero. I mean, we definitely have seen things like Ghost with dual mid lane with this Lifestealer as well as the support for Arsart, and then Light of Heaven can play the side lane solo or the safe lane solo with the Lone Druid. We can have Puppey on the Lifestealer, Ghost on the Lone Druid. We can have Puppey on the Lifestealer, Light of Heaven on the Lone Druid. There's all sorts of things, all sorts of ways that they can play this, and so if you know the character of a player and you know what heroes they can play, you can do targeted bans and you can do targeted game plans to sort of disrupt that particular player. But if the player in question can play a lot of different heroes and they can play a lot of different positions, then it becomes a little more difficult to do that, and it makes just Navi a more unpredictable team and more difficult to sort of set up a game plan against. So Liquid, meanwhile, picks up the Shadow Demon, that strong support role hero that likely gets banned in the second ban phase. Again, as you go towards the end of your first pick phase, you're really taking out heroes that you think would be banned later on. So they actually pick up the Chen, too. So this is a hero that certain teams favor and certain you never see on certain teams and you frequently see on other teams. So in this Navi versus TL matchup, this is a matchup where Chen becomes fairly relevant because Navi really likes Chen. They have Puppey play him a lot. And I think TL likes Chen a bit more than your average team as well. So we will see Chen picked up or banned more often in this sort of matchup. And if this goes to a game 3, I think we would expect to see Chen picked or banned once again. So TL actually fills out their support roster completely. They've got the potential mid or the potential side lane solo in the form of the Magnus, and they've got the Shadow Demon and Chen as hard supports. So really what you likely are going to see with this is some sort of defensive trialing with the Shadow Demon, Chen, and carry, and then the Magnus in a lane, and they need one more solo lane hero. So Navi, meanwhile, most likely with their second ban phase, would look at something like banning out side lane solo heroes to try to, or banning out mid heroes to try to push that Magnus into a side lane solo position. Because that's really what TL needs, a mid hero or a side lane solo hero, depending on where they want to put the Magnus, and a carry. So the other option is, of course, to take out carries. So Navi, meanwhile, digging into a little bit of time, they do pick up the Wisp, so they're pairing up this Lone Druid Lifestealer Wisp. The Lifestealer Wisp is sort of a combo that you can use to sort of deal a lot of damage. The Wisp actually interacts with Lifestealer quite well because if you teleport over a hero, you can actually have the Lifestealer use his Infest to sit inside either the Wisp or the hero that the Wisp is tethered to, so that instead of teleporting 2 heroes over, you can actually teleport essentially 3 heroes over, and that becomes very, very dominant. Maybe if you're a team against a Wisp, and you're sort of saying, okay, nobody goes without a buddy, we just have like sort of 2 heroes wherever we go, so that if the other team jumps in on us with this Wisp, it'll be 2 versus 2, and we'll be able to kill it because Wisp is not that great actually by herself. It's really that she just brings another hero over. But now, if you're facing 3 heroes teleporting over, it becomes very, very difficult to deal with because then, you know, you've got this, say you got the Wisp, you got another hero, and you've got the Lifestealer. Now it's just an overwhelming force that just jumped in on your 2 heroes. And so you're even more condensed to sort of, oh no, now we need to clump up in groups of 3 or more, but now you're sort of behind on farm, now you're sort of living in fear, and you're not really in control of the game. You're sort of ceding control to the team with the Wisp. And that's just one of the things that makes Wisp so strong. And really, Lifestealer is so strong as well. So this additional unpredictability Lifesteal gives with a judicious use of his Infest is very, very strong. So Na'Vi taking out some certain carry options. They're taking out that Luna, they're taking out that Brewmaster. Brewmaster definitely a strong team fight carry option, and one of the heroes that's best able to withstand a sort of Wisp bomb right on top of him. If you bomb him with even 3 heroes, the Lifestealer, the Wisp, and something else, Beastmaster can just pop his ultimate and get right away from there. Lifestealer, the downside of Lifestealer is that he really, without building Skullbasher, which typically is received very, very late for him, he really doesn't have any stuns. He has a slow, but he has no long duration disable that he can actually use to get rid of, to cause a hero to be disabled and unable to respond with spells. So the Brewmaster, in a pinch, can always get away by just popping his ultimate. Now, there is an option of using Disruptor to then counter that, but Na'Vi in this case don't really want to do that. They just want to ban out the Brewmaster. And they ban out the Luna, another very strong carry option. Able to stand toe-to-toe in some respect with Lifestealer. With equal farm later on in the game, Luna should win, but with superior farm, Lifestealer just sort of walks all over, as we saw earlier today. So Na'Vi, meanwhile, we've got both teams taking out certain mid options. Team Liquid has decided to target Dendi heroes very, very heavily, so they're definitely trying to limit the effectiveness of Dendi in this game. You've got the Queen of Pain, Puck, Rubik, all heroes that Dendi is very, very good at playing. The Rubik is also a hero that Arsart is good at playing, very, very good support. So mostly taking out mids here is what this means. Taking out options for Dendi. Meanwhile, Na'Vi actually takes out the Templar Assassin, so that's actually another hero that Dendi is very good at, another hero that he could have played in the middle. So it'll be interesting to see what these teams actually do as solutions for mid. TL still has this option of running the Magnus mid, but Na'Vi is going to have to find another middle hero that they can actually have Dendi go up on. Dragon Knight is an option and gives them a sort of 3 carry core that's also fairly strong at pushing in form of the Lone Druid and Dragon Knight, but I don't know if they're actually going to go with that. Meanwhile, TL actually decides to pick up the Gyrocopter this game. They saw the power of it in the previous game, and I think they want to grab a little bit of that power for themselves. So an interesting choice for them, definitely, and that gives them their carry. And now the last choice for Liquid is really whether they want to put this Magnus mid or not, and if so, what do they want to put in the solo lane? Otherwise, what do they want to put in the mid? Na'Vi, meanwhile, picks up Windrunner, pretty versatile hero, definitely an option for the middle, also an option for solo lane, although I suspect we'll see the Windrunner mid. Not that tremendously common to see Windrunner mid. Excuse me. Just because she is a pretty strong side lane solo option, so that's typically where we see her placed. But in this case, I think we probably will see Dendi on this Windrunner mid. And this gives them another stun, a little bit more hard disable. They have this Wisp tether is sort of wonky, and they have the very conditional disable of the Lone Druid Bear and its Entangle. But the hard disable of the Shackle Shot, especially on a player who's as strong as Dendi at landing sort of skill shot-like abilities that are difficult to place or to cast, is going to be really smart. And give them that additional disable option in addition to just the general versatility that's offered by Windrunner in your team composition. So it'll be interesting to see what these teams have reserved for their last pick. So TL definitely needs either a mid or to go up against the Windrunner, or a Sedlin solo if they're going to put the Magnus mid. So they're taking some time to figure this out. They only have 10 seconds, so I hope they really have something in mind and they're not just sort of flailing. It'll be very unfortunate. They actually, I hope they don't run out of time. Okay, so then they're going with Tidehunter. So, interesting choice. It gives them additional team fight. Tidehunter is... The issue with Tidehunter here is that he's a little bit vulnerable to this Lifestealer. Lifestealer can just open wounds him and deal a ton of damage before Tidehunter is able to get away. He's kind of vulnerable to Wisp ganks later on. And... I don't know. I mean, they can't really run Tidehunter mid. Most likely this is going to be something like a Tidehunter sideline solo. Although actually, maybe Tidehunter against Windrunner isn't the end of the world. If he takes Kraken Shell early to do some damage reduction from each of his shots, it might be okay. Basically, their options are Tidehunter solo and Magnus mid, or Magnus solo Tidehunter mid. So it'll be interesting to see which one of those two they actually go with. Both heroes, both Magnus and Tidehunter, are not unheard of on these sideline solo. So, sorry, back to Na'Vi. What was I actually talking about? Na'Vi, meanwhile, really just needs probably another support hero. They have the Wisp, the Windrunner is probably going mid, and then they sort of have these 2 core heroes, and I think they really need just an additional support. Now, they still have a lot of options that are in the pool that I've been taking out. They do have that Vengeful Spirit that wasn't taken in the last game. They have something like Venomancer is a pretty strong option, who I think is a little bit underutilized. The nice thing about Venomancer is it gives an additional slow that you can chain with the Lifestealer slow to really ensure that Lifestealer gets great time on a particular target. But I think maybe they think they can do better. Maybe they think they can find something. If they can find a very aggressive support that can really pressure this Tidehunter or Magnus in the side lane, okay, they'd go with Disruptor again. So now we're picking up the Disruptor. This is if a hero tries to escape, then Disruptor will just be able to pull them back. If TL goes with the Magnus on the side lane, what you'll see is that Na'Vi will place a ward deep into that side lane area. and they'll actually try to glimpse the Magnus back immediately after he uses his skewer, and then it'll take him all the way back, and it'll cancel the skewer. I mean, it'll cancel the distance that the skewer traveled, and it'll be on cooldown, and they'll be unable to actually manage. So, pretty strong lineup for Navi here again, but TL has quite a bit of play as well. This Tidehunter does give an AoE disable that in team fights, as soon as the Tidehunter hits level 6, they'll be able to do a lot of AoE disable and a lot of room created for Gyrocopter to deal a ton of damage. So, TL is definitely going to be hoping to land stuff like the reverse polarity, land stuff like the Ravage, and then use the Gyrocopter to mop up the remains of Navi after that. Now, Lifestealer is actually able to go immune to the Tidehunter Ravage at any level. He doesn't really need to hit He doesn't need to hit Black King Bar to actually do that. But interesting to see what they actually... I'm very interested in Liquid's lanes. I suspect it's going to be this side lane solo Tidehunter. Yeah, it will be, and it's going to be the mid Magnus, which is smart, I think, of their two choices. The Magnus, actually, the skewer wouldn't be all that great. Like, it wouldn't actually save him all that much against the tri-lane. And he's probably a stronger mid than Tidehunter is as well. Like, actually, probably a substantially stronger mid than Tidehunter is. You can see that he's saved 354 gold. He's getting the bare minimum of his initial items, just the Tango and 3 Iron Bridges, so he can get the bottle as early as possible to start getting that bottle crowing, to start getting that farm. Meanwhile, let's take a look at... Oh, I'm on directed camera. Hate directed camera. Meanwhile, taking a look over at Navi, they've got Dendi on the Windrunner, so like I said, it's going to probably be mid. And then we've got this tri-lane of the Wisp, the Disruptor, and the Lifestealer in the top safe lane, and it'll be Light of Heaven on the Lone Druid doing the side lane solo. It's been a while since I've seen Light of Heaven on this hero, but definitely Lone Druid is a pretty strong solo side lane hero, just because the bear is able to do some tricky things. Like you can farm from a distance fairly safely because you can just use the bear, and you can actually use the bear to pull creep waves from the opposing team into an area that's more safe for you to farm. You can actually pull them all the way here if you want, in between your two towers. And that just makes sure that no matter what, you are able to get some levels on that Lone Druid. And he really needs... Up to level 7, Lone Druid really wants levels. Like, it's incredibly useful for him to get those additional bear levels, to get the bear beefier, to get it at those, to get it in Tangle more than anything, which comes at level 5 for Lone Druid.
The battle begins.
Right. So we're getting into it, and we've got Navi still actually hasn't settled down into their lanes yet. I think they still think that they're going to get something going. I really like these Tidehunter illusions and how beefy they are with the Naval Mine dragging along behind them. But interestingly, one thing to watch out for is how is TC going to be able to survive this lane, because this is a pretty aggressive lane. The Wisp doesn't provide that much until she gets a couple levels, but the Disruptor's ability to glimpse back and potentially deal damage with the Thunder Strike and the Lifestealer slowing and dealing a ton of damage is going to make it pretty dangerous for TC. And you can actually see he's actually going to let the first creep wave go because he wasn't in a position to block it, and fully block the second creep wave so he can try to bring the lane as close to his tower as possible. And under tower, you're just so much safer than you are in any other position that's really much more advantageous for him. Light of Heaven, meanwhile, actually is not going to start in the solo lane. Again, we sort of see Light of Heaven doing the same thing he did on the Darkseer game, which is that he starts out in the jungle and then transitions to the solo lane once he feels that he's safe. So not just solo lane from level 1, but actually taking some time to really get that farm necessary to actually survive when he reaches the solo lane. So meanwhile, Dendi versus Bulba in the middle. We've got both of them are level 2. Dendi's actually a little ahead already, so this might be an issue for them. So they're already going to try to press Dendi right from the beginning. Huge start with the Chen and the Shadow Demon. They get the disruption up. They get the Chen to block him in as much as possible with the creep and the Chen damage and the Test of Faith. And Bulba is able to clean up the rest. So very good for Liquid. Definitely, Magnus is not favored against Windrunner. He really wants that bottle as soon as possible so he can start doing a little bit of harassment damage with the Shockwave and get some creep farm. And so it's very smart for them to try to get as many kills as possible. We're doing a very dedicated roaming approach for these supports early in this game. And I think that's very smart. Shadow Demon is an amazing early game roamer just because this disruption allows him to sort of set up a gank on anybody he wants. And if Navi's running 0 players in the safe lane for you, why have 3 heroes there, right? So in the first game, they had 3 heroes there while Navi essentially put up no fight there. And so Vengeful Spirit and whoever their other support was Vengeful Spirit and Keeper of the Light, really just didn't contribute all that much to TC there, other than making sure that they got very free farm. So in this game, starting out with the Chen and the Shadow Demon dedicated roaming means that they can sort of, they can actually sort of have an impact on the game. The flip side is, I don't want to say that it's all upside, when you're in a safe lane, you can get some guaranteed farm. Whereas with this dedicated roaming strategy, these guys are going to be underdeveloped in levels unless they're actually able to get make quite a few kills happen. I think Bulba's nearing his... Yeah, he actually has his bottle already. So Bulba doing much better than this game. And you really want your Magnus these days, I think, in mid if you can. It's much more difficult to run him as a solo lane hero. And he's not able to get that early jungle farm either, the way a Darkseer or a Lone Druid is. But early bot will be great for him, and he'll be able to hit Dendi a little bit with that Shockwave, and he actually will be able to get some of his farm. You can see he hits him with it there. So trade off of the power shot hits versus the Shockwave hits there. And meanwhile, Korok just developing his Gyrocopter, just getting all the free farm down here. And again, with your hero in the safe lane with no opposition, you really don't need your supports to be around that much, quite as much as you would otherwise. So he's just sort of farming away with the flat cannon. He's actually going to put a little pressure on the tower already. It's already down to about half health, so Korok might be able to pick up the early tower kill here, which would be very useful for him. Meanwhile, Tidehunter TC felt he was confident enough to go up to the lane, and he immediately cops a ton of damage for his trouble. I don't think they'll kill him. Actually, with the glimpse, huge glimpse on him there, that probably will get the kill. He should just gush to get it out there. Ooh, actually survive. Oh, he does get taken down by that last hit from Arsart. Actually, Arsart gets picked off on the flip side, so Tidehunter actually manages to trade there, which is very, very good for him, in the sense that it doesn't actually give him any XP because he was dead at the time, but definitely that seemed like at best he'd just sort of survive, at worst he'd die and not get anything. So it's good to deny even a tiny bit to get that disruptor kill if you can. So level 3 for TC, not actually as bad as Bulba was in the position of last time. He is above the sort of support stack that are all at level 2, so not so bad for this Tidehunter. You can see he has the 1 level in Kraken Shell. The nice thing about this is if you're stunned or otherwise disabled when you hit 600 HP, which is, you know, sorry, when you hit 600 damage taken, so at 120 HP. Once you've taken 600 damage, all your debuffs are cleared. So even if you have open wounds on you, even if you have a stun, you lose all those debuffs when you've taken 600 damage, and you can sort of get away. And that's why you frequently see Tidehunters in the more dangerous lanes, like the side lane solo, pick up this Kraken Shell nice and early, just not for the damage reduction per se, just for the debuff removal that makes them a little more escapable, makes them more able to survive what would otherwise be an extremely dangerous lane. And it still is. It certainly is still a dangerous lane. So back to sort of taking a look at the farm. You can see this Magnus, because the Magnus was able to get the bottle in a timely fashion, he's managing to trade fairly effectively with the Windrunner farm for farm, which is fantastic. Magnus is definitely a hero on whom, ooh, almost cops a kill on the courier there, but they do manage to get it out in time that the Windrunner doesn't manage to get the last hit on it. But definitely a much more advantageous position this time. We've got the level 6 on the Magnus already. He's matching the Windrunner, and he's got his reverse polarity. So you're just so much happier having that reverse polarity at 5 minutes versus at like 15. Meanwhile, Fluff and Stuff rotated, but they put his creeps on this lane. We finally saw that early tower kill that I was talking about Korok possibly getting earlier. We can see that Light of Heaven is now level 4, about to hit level 5, and so he feels like he can finally start contesting this lane, making sure that TL don't pick up the early tier 1 and tier 2, because that would be very difficult. But Korok's still looking to oppress the bear. If it comes in, he's just going to pop his Rocket Brush on it. You can see that Korok, very different build from the one we saw was going on. We see a jump in from Navi's tri-lane, huge come in already. Navi's entire team almost is here. Fluff and Stuff is stuck here, but the Gyrocopter nuke is going to hit. The Wisp gets taken down, but so does the Shadow Demon, and they lose the Chen as well. But another kill for Korok, so he manages to pick up 2. This Lifestealer is chasing him hard. They both have Phase Boots, so Phase Boot on Phase Boot action here. He's going to try to chew through the jungle, keep going on Phase Boots. What's the cooldown on open wounds? He doesn't have the mana to actually use it. Disruptor is going to take him down with this Thunderstrike. This will be enough to kill Korok. Unfortunately, they lose Korok. They don't lose Lifestealer on the flip side. Shadow Demon actually comes in, but without Korok to actually deal damage. If Shadow Demon had come in just a bit earlier, that would have been much more effective for him. Meanwhile, Bulba, where the hell is Bulba? Oh, he rotates in the back and actually picks up the Lone Druid on the backfield to play. Very, very good play from Bulba there. He actually doesn't even have to use the reverse polarity for that. I think that he would have more likely wanted the Lifestealer, but just to get the Lone Druid is great. And so we saw Navi there jump in with the Lifestealer inside of a hero and the Wisp jumping in and their entire team, and it wasn't just quite enough to really get them the advantage. They do manage to keep Provost unsullied, so he's not dead, and we do have a death on Gyrocopter, but still a lot of damage. And so even though we have a, by the way, even though we have a very different skill build, we have a very similar item build. So Gyrocopter is is going to go for that Shadow Blade early on, you can see with his Claymore. So just to give him that massive mobility and ability to get into a fight and deal damage there. So various builds that we see on Gyrocopter, but Shadow Blade is certainly an interesting item. But the interesting thing to me also is that his skill build is just so different. Instead of that heavy early flat cannon to just deal a huge AoE damage in terms of melee, he gets the early Rocket Barrage, sort of an engagement item. So he can jump right on a person and just deal incredible amounts of damage. And he is very able to just fight Windrunner here. Like, he can, if he jumps on Windrunner, Dendy's in a lot of trouble just from the damage from the Rocket Barrage. And so he's able to zone Dendy, that's why he sort of transitions into this. Meanwhile, a huge gank attempt on Lifestealer here, but he's just so fast. And he jumps into the Chen Creep and kills it, so that gives him a lot less damage. TC taking a lot of damage here, and he's not level 6 yet, which makes it much more difficult for him to actually win this team fight. Huge shackle from Dendy. This Shadow Demon and Chen are probably going to go down. How did Tidehunter get out? I think he just teleported? Yeah, Tidehunter just teleported out. But very unfortunate fight for TL there. They thought that the 3-on-1 versus Lifestealer was enough, but without the Ravage on the Tidehunter, they didn't have nearly enough disable to actually punish him. And as a consequence, Na'Vi is able to rotate their heroes over, get a little bit more farm on that Windrunner, get 2 separate kills. Actually, did Kvothe get either the kill credits? Kvothe got both of the kill credits. So their 3-on-1 attempt ends in this Lifestealer just becoming much, much bigger and just surpassing the Gyrocopter, who up to that point heretofore had been, you know, leading in the farm race, and now is just a tiny bit behind. Is Fost going Midas? No, he's not. He's actually going straight for the Armlet. So definitely sensing that this game is not one that's going to go tremendously long. Easy pick off on the Na'Vi Courier here. This is an unforced error. Oh, it escapes with 6 HP. That's so unfortunate. If they had managed to pick up the Courier, that would have been enormous. That would be the Armlet recipe substantially delayed for Kvothe. That would have been tons of gold for Liquid. Very unfortunate that Quark just didn't quite have the damage there to actually take down that Courier. That is definitely, they've definitely got to be kicking themselves for that. Armlet just comes so much earlier than it otherwise would have as a result of not being able to take that down. But I mean, that was sort of like, they didn't know they were going to get it either, so it's not like they were counting on that. They've got Bulbous with a Rune of Invis here, so Liquid is definitely trying to bait out a fight with TC on his Tidehunter and Chen is down here. They're sort of thinking that Na'Vi will sort of try to go in on them and then immediately pounce with this smoked Magnus. And if Na'Vi doesn't come, then they pick up the Tower Bounty, which they're just as happy with. And Gyrocopter, meanwhile, fully transitioned mid now that he can sort of bully Windrunner. He doesn't really fear much at all in this lane. Na'Vi are going to give them the tower, so they did sense a rat. They didn't sort of jump in and get wrecked by the Bulba TC combo on the Ravage and the Reverse Polarity. So smart of Na'Vi, they just give away the tower. Not the ideal situation, but not that bad either. Certainly better than losing a team fight. And so Liquid are only able to get a minor advantage. They did have to send 4 heroes over for that, so they definitely wanted more than just a tower for the trouble of sending 4 heroes over. The plus side is Bulba manages to pick up his Blink Dagger. So again, you're just so much happier as a Magnus when you're level 8 and have a Blink Dagger at level at 10 minutes into the game, rather than when you're level like 4 and don't have anything. So, continued development on both lanes. Na'Vi is now pressuring the top lane a little bit. It's already pretty low in HP, so they're definitely going to just try to pick this up by using Kvothe to change his name to Puppy, as we said. They're actually just playing fairly safe, making sure that Kvothe doesn't actually cop any deaths this early. If they're able to get great development in this Lifestealer and rocket past the Gyrocopter, it's just going to be he's going to be so dominant in fights. Just the inability to take any magic damage, and especially the immunity to Ravage that he has, is just very, very substantial. It's going to be difficult for Liquid to deal with without sort of landing a perfect Reverse Polarity on him. Which becomes, to be fair, much easier once you actually have this Blink Dagger. Korok, meanwhile, just continuing to develop in the middle. Still getting good farm, matching Kvothe pound for pound. It's surprising that it's not a little bit ahead, but it really was the fact that Korok, has that 1 death. Lifestealer has essentially had a free time this entire time and hasn't died at all. And the additional 2 kills is also quite substantial. So this Armlet, huge item for Lifestealer. It really gives him everything he wants. It gives you strength, it gives you damage, it gives you attack speed. It drains your life, but I mean, you're a Lifestealer. You get health back, so you really don't mind having your life drained a little bit if you're going to get all of it back anyway. Just a great item for a lot of agility, for a lot of strength carries, but really especially for Lifestealer. He just loves having that item. Let's take a look at Light of Heaven. So Light of Heaven definitely settling in for the late game, especially since he didn't get that much early development. It's valuable for him to get that Midas to sort of catch up. And so I don't know whether he's going to go Radiant straight from here. Ooh, huge jump in there. Kvothe already picks up a kill on that Chen. The counter argument from Liquid is pretty strong. They get the Tidehunter Ravage. They're doing a ton of damage with Korok just by pairing off of that Ravage. He's still going to go for that bear. Where is Lifestealer? He's actually inside of a creep. They're going to kill the bear. They kill Light of Heaven. That's very, very rough for him. That's unfortunate to die right after you picked up something like that Midas. He actually will be delayed on his next usage of that Midas, which is... You put a big investment into that Midas. You really want to be using it right when its cooldown comes off. And if you can't, that's very unfortunate. Wuss jumps out. He's feeling confident. He immediately cops quite a bit of damage from that Anchor Smash, but he may kill TC just with his huge, huge damage. Good defensive disruption to take out Lifestealer as soon as his cooldown comes up. And this was a disastrous fight for Na'Vi. They lose the Wisp and the Lifestealer jumping in right there. It was a completely unfortunate jump in. They do manage to kill the Tidehunter after the disruption expires, but that saves Liquid just enough time that they're actually able to get 2 kills for the price of 1, take down finally Navi's opposing carry, and Korok lives through that entire fight. He picks up 2 more kills. He's up to 3 and 1. He has his Shadow Blade. He's working towards his BKB, and you know it's just great for him. Much better position for Liquid than they were in at this time last game. I mean, in fact, at this time last game they were about 6 minutes away from surrendering, but I don't think they're 6 minutes away from surrendering this time. The bright side for Na'Vi, Dendi's getting okay farm. He's got his phase boots. Windrunner boots are an interesting decision. Phase boots are nice because you just position yourself so well. You already want to. Not quite enough for Bulba there. He had the haste rune. He wanted to get Dendi trapped, and he wasn't quite able to do so. Korok running around with his Shadow Blade. They did want to initiate on Dendi there, but they didn't get the initiation they were looking for, unfortunately. Has Dendi died? I think he's died. Yeah, he's died 3 times, actually. So Korok a bit in no man's land here, actually. He might want to be a little careful about what he's doing here. He manages to Shadow Blade away, and Na'Vi don't have any detection up on them. They actually have these Sentry Wards, but those aren't quite enough. Unless you're fighting in a fixed location, those aren't going to be quite enough to chase somebody down with. Na'Vi continuing to try to pressure this top lane. They really want to get some tower development here because they're down 3 towers to TL. Like TL has the middle tier 1, they have the bottom tier 1 and 2. So Na'Vi really needs to start making an argument for these towers, or they're going to fall substantially behind. Huge skewer from Bulba there. I don't think he has his reverse polarity. He actually does have reverse polarity, but he's saving it. They take out Windrunner incredibly quickly. Disruptor is able to double kill for. Oh, Wuss jumps right in the back with this Wisp. Huge jump there. Unfortunately, reverse polarity does go out, but it's not quite enough because it's just as the teleport cooldown is coming down. They do kill the Lone Druid Bear, but that actually wasn't that great for them. Amazing jump from Na'Vi there, actually. And as the jump expired, they managed to get a complete reverse polarity waste because it didn't actually disable them for any... I mean, it did disable, though, but they got teleported back in the middle of the disable, so they didn't lose Wisp and Lifestealer there. Huge for Na'Vi, huge fight. Double kill for Wuss. They completely stymied this attempt by Liquid to just punish them. They'll probably pick up the tower as well. Light of Heaven, yeah, he's just getting out there just to use that Hand of Midas, to make sure you're using that Hand of Midas on cooldown. And Na'Vi will easily pick up this tower, I think. There's really not a lot. TC is interesting. He does have Ravage, but I don't know it was smart for him at all to come in here. Interesting pickup, early Blink Dagger. Early Ghost Scepter rather than Blink Dagger. And Ghost Scepter is just such a smart thing to pick up against this Lifestealer, because it's really the one thing that will prevent a Lifestealer from just bashing on you all day. And Na'Vi managed to pick up the tower and fully escape, so great escape from them there. Tether does increase the movement speed of the person tethered, and with this phase boots, that makes Lifestealer quite speedy. And it looks like Liquid is just going to counter-argue by just trying to pick up this tower themselves. So Na'Vi had to run away. We'll just sort of pick up the pieces and run at them. The fact that they didn't use Ravage is very useful to them here since they still have it to actually deploy. The downside is they did use that reverse polarity and it completely whiffed last time. And I think they really want that level 11 on Bulba to just get that level 2 reverse polarity. That's going to be very important for them. He has to stay in XP range to actually... He should stay in XP range to try to get these kills. Okay. I mean, you can do that too, but I really think you should. They disrupt this Windrunner illusion. I wonder if they realize that it's just an illusion. Yeah, they do now. They figured it out now. Lots of pressure by TL in this top lane. They still really need this level 11 on Magnus, I feel like. It would be really good for them to actually pick that up. But they run out of creeps, so they're not actually able to pressure the tower as quickly as they wanted to. And Na'Vi's sort of watching the retreat here, watching where TL are, knowing when the exact moment to strike will be. And Korok, meanwhile, just scouting around with his gyrocopter, popping that Shadow Blade and just sort of running around, seeing what he can see, seeing whether the Na'Vi are actually going to sort of contest this lane or not. Great power shot by Dendi, sort of clear out this creep wave, make sure that if the enemy team wants your tower, they have to pay for it with their own blood. And Liquid retreat once again. They're not able to quite get this tower. So Korok has actually moved to a different lane. He's sort of falling a little bit behind on farm relative to this Lifestealer, and he smells it. He knows it. He knows that he needs to. I guess we're gonna get a pause actually. Maybe some sort of streaming issue or issue with the other casters or something. Something is wrong. Oh, the stream isn't working. That's too bad. So Light of Heaven trying to catch up on farm. Because he's picked up these 2 deaths and he hasn't really been able to get the farm that maybe he would be as happy with. Does he have anything on the courier? No, he doesn't. So yeah, definitely an underdeveloped lone druid. You don't want to just have something like Basilius, just give yourself a little bit of armor, and Midas, and that's it, and boots are your 2 heroes. I don't even know. He probably still will go Radiance, but it's going to take a very, very long time for Light of Heaven to actually reach that Radiance. And this is unusually low farm for him. So it's just been tough because they've been... this is sort of the reverse situation from the previous game, where I think Na'Vi are getting a little bit outmaneuvered. And the upside for them is the upside that was for TL last time, which is that this Lifestealer is great development. He really hasn't died at all. He has 6 kills. And Na'Vi do have the Wisp, so that is a force multiplier for a carry who's ahead. If you have a carry and they're ahead, but the rest of your team is behind, it's sort of difficult to make sure that the carry covers all the bases. It's like they have to put out fires everywhere on the map at once. But if you have Wisp, that becomes a much more tenable proposition, because wherever things are going badly, you can just move your carry there. And it's doubly true with Lifestealer, since you can move him and somebody else there. You can move something like the carry, and you can move Lifestealer and Lone Druid somewhere, because Lifestealer can catch a ride on any of your other heroes. So I think Na'Vi are in a far better position than Liquid were last game. But Liquid does have the momentum with them, I feel. They're ahead a little bit on gold, about 2,500 gold. They're actually a little behind on level development, which I find interesting. Just because their 2 supports are quite a bit behind this Wisp. This Wisp is actually getting pretty great levels just by hitching rides on other characters and making sure this picks them up. Great items on Wisp. You have this Tranquil Boots, additional heal for your team. You got the Urn of Shadows, and additional... Sorry, I should say Tranquil Boots on any hero just heals themselves, but because of Wisp's tether mechanic, it also heals the target that you tethered. So, meanwhile, I think they weren't sure whether they wanted to take that fight or not. Wisp and Disruptor came in just in case Lifestealer needed additional backup. But Lifestealer's just farming the jungle without any fear now. This double damage rune makes him a very formidable prospect, and we got Arsart and Puppy actually smoked in the back, so if Liquid decide to press the issue here, they're going to jump right in and try to kill him. Shadow Demon forced to defensively disrupt himself. We got Korok, meanwhile, in the back taking down 2 heroes, but he comps a lot of damage from it. He's actually at 117 HP already. And where is Lifestealer, meanwhile? Where is Lifestealer? Oh, he's actually over here. Great escape from Fos there. They do pick up 2 heroes, but they're not the 2 heroes they wanted, and they had to rotate their entire team to pick that up, so very, very unfortunate for them. Meanwhile, check out these Na'Vi Sentry Wards, just making sure that this possible smoke coming out from Team Liquid is completely anticipated, and they can make sure that their heroes are safe. In fact, it's important to note that Navi's vision is a lot better than Liquid's. Liquid's got this one offensive ward here near the team tier 1 top tower, but this tells you very little. It basically tells you what you already know. Oh, there's a guy farming up here. In this case, it's Kvos trying to make his Radiance. Or he's actually, no, he's going to skip Radiance completely. He's just making phase boots to give himself additional mobility. Smart, actually. If he makes Radiance, it's going to be an extremely late one. Just give himself additional mobility, additional survivability right now. But let's take a look at this vision, seriously. So, for Liquid, you do see this entire lane up here, but this isn't even the lane you control. Ostensibly, you control this area of space here, but your vision only goes up to here, so you actually don't really control it that well. Meanwhile, if you're Na'Vi, look at your vision. You have all this sort of area. You essentially understand everything going on in this river. If you're Light of Heaven, you know that these guys come through, because you just saw them. Actually, you might not know. Light of Heaven might get taken down here. There is a lot of attention on him. Will they use the reverse polarity? They don't actually need to, and they don't. Smart. They don't use the Ravage, they don't use the reverse polarity. They just pick up an easy kill in Light of Heaven, further delaying his development, making his decision not to go Radiant seem even more prescient, because he would have lost a lot of HP. Again, Dendi having to use his Force Staff and his Phase Boost just to escape from that pressure from Korok. So, at any rate, Na'Vi, great amount of vision, but losing this tower is definitely going to hurt them a little bit in terms of map control. Makes this area much less safe for Light of Heaven to farm in. They will trade this for a tower over here, so... Dendi says, please no rocket. Yeah, definitely a dangerous gyrocopter. Even with Windrunner's great mobility, you can oh, Puppy's great skewer from Bulba there, just enough to actually make sure that Wisp wasn't able to teleport away. And Korok picks up another kill, managing to pick up the Disruptor over here. So this mobility for Team Liquid, again, mobility is the name of the game in this particular series. The ability of Korok to chase people down with the Shadow Blade and do a ton of damage to them, and have the BKB to play very, very defensive and not get stunned or slowed or silenced during that time. And the sort of Magnus skewer, and Magnus getting all over the place now that he actually had the blink, is paying off for Liquid just in spades in this game. They're really able to outmaneuver Na'Vi and get an advantage all over the map. Like they got 2 kills at completely opposite ends of the map there, and so very, very substantial for Navi to actually be able to get that. Note that Bulba on this Vegas he's 7-0. Compare this to his performance in the last game, right? Like such a better situation for him than it was in the previous game. Just take a look at the net worth graph. You can see that even though Light of Heaven is doing about as well as you could expect in this situation, his net worth, his development is much lower than it would be in an ideal game, and much lower than you really expect from a Light of Heaven lone druid. Like Radiance is just really not in the cards. Once again, Bulba, the one person that Bulba can't seem to get that skewer off on is Dendi. He's just too nimble, too mobile with that phase boots, and being able to get out of trouble with the Force Staff, just very substantial for him. Navi barreling down the middle with this, with Hvost and with Dendi and Puppy. Interestingly, Hvost has just not gotten any more damage at him, so he's just going the pure survivability. He's already picking up the Reaver. I mean, Reaver does give him damage, but not nearly as much as he would get from going like a Desolator or a Mjolnir or something. So, definitely going for that pure heart, live through everything. And that's very smart, because even though he has the passive magic immunity, he's still in danger of something like a reverse polarity. Like, if they reverse polarity in response to his magic immunity, that's 4 of those 6 seconds in which he's still disabled, even though he's magic immune. And then he has maybe 2 seconds left, and you know, once he has 2 seconds left on that, you can sort of Ravage just at the end of that, and you've essentially functionally disabled him for like 10 out of 12 seconds. And so it's important in those situations to just survive as much as you can. So it's very smart for Hobos to pick up this heart so that even in situations beyond his control, he can sort of get that survivability and actually live to the point where he can deal a ton of damage. Because the fact is, Liquid's heroes are pretty squishy. You can take this Chen down, you can take this Shadow Demon down in a pretty timely fashion if you want to. You can see Shadow Demon going for the he has the Staff of Wizardry, which means that he's probably going to make Force Staff as quickly as possible too. Again, the name of the game for these squishier heroes of Team Liquid is to get away from Lifestealer, or not die to Lifestealer. And that's why you saw this extremely early Ghost Scepter from TC, just to you know, not take that damage from Lifestealer. Eat the open wounds maybe, but then not be able to be attacked from the open wounds and not take that life damage that heals your entire opposing team. And now you can see he's actually added on a Blink as well. So this is really the key item for Tidehunter. Once you have Blink, you really don't need any more items, because that Blink gives you that initiation. It gives you that ability to jump on them. Liquid actually trying to go for Rush here, but they're going to get multiple sounds. All they can really do at this point is maybe take down this Roshan. Roshan actually gets, they do get kill Roshan, and they do pick up the Gyrocopter. They get the Ravage, but a huge shield from Chen, and they're going to keep going down with the Gyrocopter nuke. It hits almost nobody. Kvos is running around on a rampage, but he gets taken down. They lose 3, they lose Dendi, they lose Wisp, and they have to beat a hasty retreat out of here. Huge reverse polarity from Bobo there, managing to stun Light of Heaven and Disruptor, and then skewer after the reverse polarity, not before, pushing them back into the rest of the team. They get a total team wipe, and the Roshan, and the Aegis, and they don't spend the Aegis. That was a huge fight for Team Liquid. That may be the deciding fight of this game. Na'Vi are taken out for up to 30 seconds. Do they have buyback on Kvos? They do, actually. His buyback cost is very, very low, just because of how early the game is. So they may have to do buybacks just to keep their racks alive here, Na'Vi, because they're going to be taking a lot of damage on this tower. They do actually have their fortification. That's going to be key for them. Na'Vi don't want to buyback. They don't want to spend that money. They actually can't on Light of Heaven. You can see he's got the full support with the Vladimir's offering. They just don't want to spend that buyback on Kvos. They really want to keep his buyback cooldown from coming up. And Team Liquid have to retreat. They don't feel confident winning another 5-on-5 team fight without Ravage, without reverse polarity, and that's wise. They don't have those items, they don't have those abilities. They need to wait for them to come back up before they feel confident enough that they can siege these Raxes. But definitely an enormous fight, a fight of enormous consequence for Team Liquid there. They managed to bait Na'Vi into attacking them with the Roshan. I actually thought it might be very dangerous for them, because Disruptor got the full, he got the ring, he got the silence, but Gyrocopter, because he got that BKB, he was able to make himself immune to the silence, be able to get out of the kinetic field, pick up the Roshan Aegis, and do a ton of damage to Navi's team and take them down. Na'Vi really had to scramble to stop that Roshan as quickly as possible, and maybe they weren't ideally positioned, or they took a fight just slightly before they were fully ready to. And as a consequence, they get punished for it. They lose all 5 heroes for a trade of nothing, and they lose their tier 3 tower as a consequence as well. So very substantial for Team Liquid, not gonna lie. That probably takes them up to, yeah, almost 10k advantage on the gold, almost 10k advantage on the experience. Now I think you can say they're firmly in command of this game. Gyrocopter building up his Manta style. He's got this Yasha already. This gives him additional speed. You can see he has 466 movement speed with the Phase Boots active. So huge speed, huge ability to chase. If he pops this Shadow Blade and if he pops the Phase Boots and then the Shadow Blade, I think he might actually hit the speed cap. Yeah, he will actually hit the actual speed cap. So tremendous speed for Gyrocopter, tremendous ability to chase and deal damage, and even get out of fights. Like, he's so safe with the incredible speed and the ability to stealth and the great damage. It's just very, very strong hero at this stage in the game, and now he's going to start building the damage items to really make himself threatening as well. Meanwhile, Boba still hasn't died. He's 807, part of 15 kills, and he finishes his refresher. So this is a huge benchmark for this Magnus. This Magnus is worth as much as this lifesteal at this point. And with the refresher... the reverse polarity, refresher, reverse polarity is a disable that not even Lifestealer can get through. Like, Lifestealer will die in that disable even if he finishes his heart, which he has, but it's just still incredible for Team Liquid. If they manage to get a team fight in which they clear out Na'Vi again the way they just did, with that refresher, reverse polarity, Na'Vi is done. Na'Vi will lose this game, and we're going to go to a game 3. Arsart, just very low health, still at this stage in the game. He's only level 8. He's been the number 5. He's been picking up those sentries. It's rough. It's rough for him. He's not able to survive these fights, and he got caught out a little bit there. He was planting wards. Na'Vi need the vision. They need to regain the vision that they had earlier. They're developing Light of Heaven down here, but they got to bring him back. Otherwise, they are going to lose this Rax. They are going to lose it. So they have to send their entire team to sort of defend this. Dendi already taking a ton of damage. He's got to use his bottle to pick himself back up. And Na'Vi are in a lot of trouble here. They really have to figure out a way that they can actually defend this Rax. And they can't right now. This tornado from Chen is just zoning them out. They don't feel comfortable running into it. They lose it to Rax already. They're going to lose the second Rax. Are they actually going to fight at all? Are they going to go for any sort of fight, or are they going to just give this Rax and sort of let the game consider from there? It looks like they're just going to let it go, and Team Liquid are going to walk out having picked up a Rax for free. And that's very worrisome if you're Na'Vi, because really, how much could you have waited for? Sure, you could have had Arsart, but you had all 5 heroes. And you just completely didn't feel comfortable at all fighting against that. Now, maybe they can wait out the end of the Aegis, but they've got 2 more minutes to wait, during which Team Liquid can do quite a bit. Now, smart counter push from Na'Vi here. They actually put Lifestealer inside the Lone Druid, and they port with the Lone Druid and they're going to get out. So he pops his Rage, very smart, and they teleport out. So this is maybe Na'Vi's gameplay, that they can actually effectively warn Team Liquid off of pressing their advantage too early just with these strong counter pushes. So they were able to deal almost half of the damage of this tower just by bringing those 3 heroes down, doing a ton of push damage, and then getting out. Because the Wisp can teleport the Lone Druid out, and the Lifestealer can get back out just by doing Rage TP. The only way that you're going to stop Lifestealer from Rage TPing out is this reverse polarity. There was a time in which Skewer also went through BKB, and Magnus was just ludicrously overpowered, but it doesn't anymore. Now, if you want to break up a BKB or break up a Rage with Magnus, you really have to use this reverse polarity. But again, this refresher is sitting here, and this is a time bomb that's waiting to explode all over Na'Vi. Like, if they get a good ult, refresher ult, Na'Vi's done. Like, that is game right there, because just the Gyrocopter alone can deal so much damage on top of that. Interestingly, Gyrocopter's actually skipping finishing this Manta. He's going straight for the additional damage provided by the Eagle Song, so he's going to go for Butterfly earlier, and that'll give him more dodge to avoid that Lifestealer. Hvost isn't anywhere near the point at which you would feel comfortable creating an MKB, and so if you finish that Butterfly, that gives you tons of attack speed, tons of damage. You can really just deal all of your flak cannon damage in the time that the other team is stuck in reverse polarity, and it's going to be almost impossible for Na'Vi to win team fights at that point, because their team fight combo is just much less versatile than Liquid's is at that point. These AoE disables, this huge damage, it's just going to be a huge thing for Na'Vi to deal with, because really the Wisp just does not have the tools to do something like that late. Na'Vi aren't even done with their mechanism, actually. They're still building it on this Wisp. They've got the Buckler, they got the Hedra, so he's pretty close to making that mechanism. And Wisp is a great hero to make mechanism on, because it doubles up the heal on the person you're actually tethering. But trouble for Na'Vi, right? They're already down a pair of Raxes, and they have to play extremely defensively. Now, they do have decent vision, considering, like, they do sort of know what's going on in the exterior of their base, better than Liquid sort of know in terms of what's going on in their base. And I think that's because Liquid's probably seeking to finally build out. Yeah, they really wanted to finish this this Force Staff on the Shadow Demon before they started warding with him again. They want to keep him alive in these fights a little bit longer. Liquid, actually, what are they doing here? Are they checking Roche? They still have, like, 4 minutes. I mean, their Aegis was just gone, so they probably should have known that I don't know what that Chen was about. So Liquid looks like they're going to aim for the big push. They've finished with the Butterfly and Gyrocopter. They don't care about leaving buyback on them. They feel confident enough that they're going to get an advantage, get a dominant position there. And so they finished the Butterfly. They're definitely going to push with that. He's going to, you can see, he just deals incredible damage, incredible potential at this point. I don't know what they're going to build on Boba. It looks like they're going to keep buyback. It'll be interesting to see what he actually makes after, now that he's done with his refresher. This is just such an early time to have a refresher on Magnus. And this haste rune means that they can effectively chase Vost. They are chasing him all the way across the map, but they don't know where he is. That's the downside of not having wards, is that you do not know where that hero you're trying to kill is. But they're going to find him. They find Faust. They reverse polarity him. Are they going to use the refresher? They do use the refresher. They're going to do the... He doesn't have the mana. He doesn't have the mana to reverse polarity. He does it. They use the double reverse polarity just to kill off Faust. He does have buyback, so I don't... And the buyback only costs 900. So, as exciting as that was to watch, I'm not sure that was that... I'm not sure they actually needed the refresher reverse polarity, because it was just Faust. B, if they don't... They need to use that to push. Like, that was such an expenditure of time and energy. Like, the fact is, Faust's buyback isn't even that expensive, but you really have to force it. Like, it's okay. Maybe you only cost him 1,000, but that means he can't buy back for another, like, 5 minutes. Like, you really want to be able to cancel that buyback, because then, you know, the next time you kill him, that's when you're really ahead. Like, the next time you kill him, that's when he's really, really fucked. Korak trying to get the pick off of Puppey there. Really smart tether by Puppey just to get right away from that. And they're not actually going to be able to bait out the buyback from Faust. So the reverse polarity, I mean, it didn't cost them anything except the reverse polarity cooldown. But this refresher is going to be cooled down for another, you know, minute and a half. And so at this point, they really can't push in. So I'm not going to say they're frittering away their advantage yet, because they're certainly not. And their advantage is extremely dominant. But that wasn't maybe the best thing that they could have done with it. And they definitely didn't get more ahead as a result of that Lifestealer kill. It was strong, it was good, but they didn't manage to get him to buy back. And that's really, I think, what they needed there. What they really wanted was to get Faust to buy back, to not even to spend the money, although also to spend the money, but really just to start that buyback cooldown. And they're going to TP over here. I think Puppey's just going to leave Faust here to farm some more. This is solely a, here, I'm going to help you out teleport. Or will they go back, actually? No, they don't, actually. Yeah, it's what I thought it was. It's just a deposit Faust here so we can get more farm. They really want this Lifestealer to make up the 5k difference in farm between him and the Gyrocopter. And the only way they're going to do that is to get him to places fast and get him to get tons of damage. I think Faust will probably go for the MKB from here, just to counteract this butterfly from the Gyrocopter that they now know is there. Tidehunter, meanwhile, he's going for Refresher as well. So Tidehunter actually about... less than halfway, but getting there. Almost halfway to his refresher. Actually, no, the refresher recipe is extremely expensive. So Tidehunter is more than halfway to his refresher orb. And just think about the insanity of Ravage, Refresher, Ravage, Reverse Polarity, Refresher, Reverse Polarity. I don't even know how many seconds of disable that is. If Tidehunter reaches level 16, which he's one level away from, that's 2.7, so that's 5.44 seconds. And then the double reverse polarity is 3.75, 7.5 seconds. So that's 13 seconds in which the entire enemy team is disabled. 7.5 seconds of which go through magic immunity. Just astonishing amount of disable that a Team Liquid is actually able to deploy right now. Was able to get away safely, so great ability. He got a great set of farm there. He actually got quite a bit of farm. He got himself about 1,300 gold there just in that one run. He picked up a tower as well. Picks up 2 javelins, so that's going to take him a little more than halfway to his MKB, about 3/5 of the way there. And so Faust definitely going towards there. He still has buyback money. Actually, he won't have buyback money if he dies now. He needs a little bit more gold to get that. So he's going to try to pick up his buyback gold as quickly as possible over here. Meanwhile, what does Light of Heaven do? So he picked up his Vlads. He actually has 3900. I wonder if he's just going to go the Radiance. This is possibly the slowest Light of Heaven Radiance that we have ever seen. I think he's going to get it. I think he's going to pick up the Radiance. He's going to pick up the Sacred Relic on the bear right now. Yeah, wow, he is going to go Radiance. Just he values the Radiance so much on that Lone Druid that he doesn't mind getting it at 36. And keep in mind, so I want to make a note about this, because a lot of advice you see, people on the internet who don't know better will tell you, never get Radiance if it's after 30 minutes. Just never do it. You're a huge noob, feeder, trash fuck, Russian if you do this. And here you see one of the best players in the world, Light of Heaven, actually picking up his Radiance at 36, 37 minutes. So, I mean, it's really where you have to decide based on what's valuable in the game. And sometimes, you know, a decent choice is to get that Radiance no matter what, even if it comes very late. This of course is more true on Lone Druid than on certain other heroes. It's so critical to Lone Druid to get extra farm via that Radiance. Like it is his tool for getting more gold, because he can put the bear anywhere, even if it's out of range of Lone Druid and it can't auto attack, it can still deal Radiance damage, and that gives you this huge additional split push / farming potential. That just makes Radiance valuable at any stage of the game. The issue for Na'Vi is going to be Lone Druid is nowhere near buyback now. If they lose this ensuing team fight and they can't get the Lone Druid back, and especially if they can't get the Lifestealer back, it's going to be brutal. Great disable on Korok there. Really good shackle on him that takes away a lot of his health already. He's about half health. They're pushing in these Chen tornadoes, and they're going to keep trying to siege. Are they? Or maybe not? It's not entirely clear how confident Liquid are that they can win this ensuing team fight, but it will be huge for them if they can take out that second set of Raxes. Meanwhile, Navi once again doing the counter push. Very, very smart here. Just put pressure anywhere you can. Put pressure in the alternate lanes. Make it so that it's not so comfortable for Liquid to just push in and farm you. So they've jumped in. Korok is in. He's doing a lot of damage. The Entangle, big Entangle. He's actually taking quite a bit of damage already. He's going to need a heal sooner or later. They put a defensive disruption on him. Where did they put him? I think he got glimpsed back. He does manage. Oh, Korok's just taking a lot of damage. He doesn't quite have the survivability. He does finish his Manta, and he does have Aegis. So I think they just need to keep sieging. They're losing quite a bit of health on this tower, but they don't really have any more players there, and Wisp's relocate isn't going to be up for another 35 seconds. So I think it's going to be wise for Liquid to just keep going on with the siege, and they will. They do have the Aegis on Korok. They're not super worried about him dying quite yet, but he is going to use the Shadow Blade to survive as long as possible. You don't want to use that Aegis until the exact moment that you need it, and the siege continues. Their creeps are so deep in Navi's base. They really want to just use Korok as the spearhead. Amazing power shot from Dendi. They completely prevent Korok from getting too cute with that. He is forced to use his Aegis. And now I really think Liquid just should put the pedal to the metal and try to get this Rax before Wisp is able to counter push even more. But they may decide to not do it. They may decide to just... they're going to try a side approach. They're going to try to take down Hvost. Korok does have Shadow Blade. Navi doesn't know he's here, but he decides not to de-Shadow Blade. He decides not to de-Stealth. And I think Team Liquid are just suffering from a bit of a failure of nerf here. Maybe they're not quite feeling quite as confident as maybe they could. They do pop the Manta for the Gyrocopter, but now they're split up. Now Fluff and stuff on this Chen is going to get taken down on the side. Okay, Navi pull off too. So very, very, very cat and mouse game here. Both teams playing both the cat and the mouse. Now they're chasing Ghost around in this jungle. They do put up a Tidehunter Gush on him. They are chasing him. The Rocket Barrage comes up. He pops his Rage. This is going to be reverse polarity number 1. Actually, they won't need it. They take down Ghost. That's huge. He does have buyback. No, he doesn't have buyback. He finished his MKB. He finished his MKB at the side shot just for that. Oh, that was a huge mistake. That was an enormous mistake from Ghost. That will be the Raxus. They will not be able to defend this 4 vs 5. Liquid popped none of their ultimates to actually kill him off there. They still have double Refresher. They still have double Ravage. Navi have to call GG. That was an unfortunate death for Ghost there right after finishing his... TC just uses double Ravage just because he wants to. Just because he wanted to see it happen in the game. Navi just get picked off right there, and in the end, I mean, they were probably going to lose anyway. They were just substantially behind, but not the greatest decision-making from Flos there to finish his MKB when he would need buyback in a very short time. And so Navi get taken down. So TL managing to turn around their fortunes and not putting together quite as dominant of a performance, but decently close to what Navi did in the first game. They managed to get amazing development on this Gyrocopter. They get a much, much, much better position on Magnus, and really that's what made the difference. The Magnus in Game 2 versus the Magnus in Game 1 is the difference between losing a game by an enormous margin and winning it by an enormous margin. Because you can see Bulba this game, 10-0. 10 kills, no deaths, 11 assists. Let's take a look at his GPM. 383 GPM. He gets the blink in a timely fashion. He gets the refresher extremely early, and after that, it was always gonna be extremely scary for Navi to take any team fights when you can get double reverse polarity, and then we can also get double ravaged on top of that. I mean, there's no hope in team fights. Like, you just do not have a hope in team fights. And so that's the difference, really. You have a side lane Magnus that isn't able to even get level 2 until like 4 or 5 minutes into the game, and it's worthless. You just feed. And then you have a Magnus that is in the middle, and you get him that Bottle Crow, and you get him that early First Blood, and you're just able to develop him. And it just becomes so difficult for the other team to deal with that. It's a really good game, honestly. There were times in which Navi seemed like they'd stabilize, but really just the inability to get really anything going on Light of Heaven's Lone Druid there, and the fact that they sort of ended up in the position that Liquid ended up in last time, where their Lifestealer was great, he was in great position, and they just didn't really get it done on any of their heroes. And they weren't able to... They spent so much time playing defense on various locations that they weren't really able to get their game plan into gear. Their game plan this time was the triple push from the Lifestealer, Lone Druid, Wisp, and they did get it going later on, and it was actually pretty scary. They were able to deal decent damage to the tier 3 towers, but by that time, Liquid were so terrifying and so able to just do a sustained siege situation that Navi was not able to deal with that. So we're going to go into Game 3 in just a moment. I'm going to take a quick break, but I'm just going to step away from the computer for a second. But thanks for watching, and we'll take a look at Game 3, which is going to be very interesting. I didn't expect TL to come roaring out of the gate in Game 2 as much as they did, and so it'll definitely be interesting to see what actually happens in Game 3.